Hi, I'm Dr. Layne Kalbfleisch. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist and an educational psychologist. Let's talk about the brain. Now we're going to talk about different kinds of learning and the kinds of neuroplastic changes that take place when you are learning. And so the first thing to think about is that there are really two kinds of learning. There's learning knowledge, such as your facts and your own memory about your life, who your grandparents are, who your family is, where they live, how you get there, versus what happened in 1776 or 1492. And those are different kinds of knowledge that your brain can acquire and hold in memory. But then there's another kind of learning too, and those are your skills. If you drive a stick shift or have a great tennis swing or a good golf swing or play the clarinet. And those kinds of skills start out being really hard and you have to think through them and maybe talk through them. But eventually you can do them without thinking and you do them kind of invisibly. And so your brain actually handles both kinds of learning and memory. And so the first kind usually starts and takes place inside your temporal lobe, where nested inside closer to the midline of the cortex is that seahorse-shaped hippocampus. And the hippocampus, which is a fancy word for seahorse, as I said yesterday, the head of the seahorse is where short-term memory begins, like when you're learning new knowledge. And that knowledge transfers down to the tail and then out into other parts of the cortex as the knowledge becomes older and well-learned. But those kinds of changes in the beginning, the fancy word is long-term potentiation. And potentiation is a fancy word for nerves firing very, very quickly, and these gray matter dendrites thickening and interweaving with each other and becoming very robustly connected like a basket or a tennis racket, a weave on a tennis racket. And so knowledge learning, the neuron is firing and potentiating and causing these physical changes in the gray matter of your brain. So that's one way that that learning and neuroplasticity happens in cortex. But also, deeper in the middle of your cortex, you have something called the basal ganglia. And the basal ganglia is made up of loops. So if I were to take this string and loop once, twice, 3, 4, and 5, there are 5 different loops that twist and tangle from the center of your brain in those nuclei and out into different parts of the cortex. And so when you drive a stick shift or swing your golf club or play a clarinet and you do it without thinking about it, it's because of these loops. These loops are where the skills lie, your ability to do things without thinking. And so you think about what are other things that the brain does without thinking? Well, it controls your respiration, controls your heart rate. And so things like riding a bike and driving a stick shift and swinging a golf club, those skills become just like your heartbeat and your respiration. You don't have to think about them when you do them.